Well, good evening and welcome to another episode of Investigate Everything. Thanks for coming back and joining me. I know I've been gone for a long time. As a lot of you know, I've been working to set up a group that is doing public due diligence. What is public due diligence? That is my concern that so many vendors in our space, which we call it MAGA space, whatever, but in the entire economy, while everyone's focused on Russia and the Middle East, and Trump did this and Bondi did this, myself included, or the left is doing this and Mondami and everything, all important things. But what people don't pay attention to too much is who are they interacting with on a daily basis. And so after several vendors tried to actually advertise on our show, and I did some due diligence on them and found out that they were total hucksters. I kind of got sick of it. It really made me mad. I thought about all those grandmothers, my own mom when she was a widow, getting, approached by these scam artists who, ghoulishly found her through my dad's obituary back in 2013. God rest his soul. And it just pissed me off. So I finally decided I was going to do something about it. I'm going to put all of my skills, not just my ability to collect and analyze intelligence, but also my ability to organize teams that do the same thing in a very efficient way. And that's what we're in the middle of right now. We've already started dropping stories that you should definitely check out. I'll post all the stuff at the end of the show. But the organization is called Consumer Diligence. We have a team already working, investigative journalists, former intel analysts. I have a really good person who's kind of running as, let's just say he's the hammer. Great team, and they're doing great work. And so what is that? That is going out and finding out everything you can about a company you're transacting with, a company you were concerned about, an NGO you want to donate to, or a person that comes into your life. So definitely check that out. And that leads me into tonight's episode. So, tonight we have a very special guest with us. Now, I don't have a cold open ready. That's okay, because we're going to play those clips anyways. But many of you may recall the many, many times you probably saw Project Veritas or some of these undercover stings where people would tell some unknown voice on the other end of the camera almost everything. And let me give you an example of that just so we can warm this up, because I remember watching this particular video I'm going to show and thinking, who is that? That person's really good at this. That guy is telling her everything. Now, you may recall, this is the time the PBS lead counsel was telling this reporter a lot of stuff, and it didn't go well for him, and I will let her get into those details. But let me just call this up on the screen, and I am going to run this for you. And I am not going anywhere, so don't go anywhere. It is coming up now. And let's get that rolling. Okay. All right, here we go.
Anyone buy rooms to go through all the Republican voters and Homeland Security with different children? And we'll put them into re-education camps.
Amen.
In these times, which are unique. Trump is close to Hitler.
What are we going to do if we don't like it?
Go to the White House and throw Molotov cocktails. These kids who are growing up knowing nothing but Trump, for 4 years, you gotta wonder what they're going to be like. Are we raising a generation of intolerant, horrible people, horrible kids? Enlightenment camps.
Right.
They're nice. They have Sesame Street characters in the classroom, and they watch PBS all day.
I'm gonna go home and watch it.
dumb. You know, most people are dumb.
It's good to live in a place where people are, educated and know stuff. And can you imagine if you lived in one of these other towns or states where everybody's just stupid?
What's great is like COVID is spiking in all the red states right now, so that's great.
Why do you think so?
Because either those people are come out to vote for Trump, because the red states, or a lot of them are sick and dying. PBS has like real news, but CNN doesn't have real news anymore. It's just a talking head talking about Trump all day long.
I can't stand it. I mean, every once in a while I look at Fox News and it makes me want to throw up after 5 minutes.
It's all this Joe Biden shit now, all the Joe Biden scandal, which is all made up. It's all ridiculous. And they are pushing them so hard. It's unbelievable.
So do you guys just ignore it?
Yeah.
Well, I think someone didn't do his due diligence on who he was meeting with. Now, before we get going, before I bring my guest onto the stage, let me just say that we think about espionage, spying, and it sounds very cloak and dagger. I even, of course, put the, woman in the cloak and the derby hat in the tile. That's just me going crazy with AI. But I want everyone to think about something. What is espionage? It's collecting information. It's collecting information to protect the person you're working for. So espionage, or information collecting, it's really, there's no difference between how a spy does it, how an investigative journalist does it. We think of the CIA, we think of people doing, like martial art tumbles and picking locks and everything, and those things do happen. I don't know about the tumbles. But what I want you guys to take away from this interview is not just, this really cool person, super nice person, very huge amount of integrity. But I don't want you to just take away the cool stuff and everything. I want you to take away two things from this. Okay? That is, espionage is a tool. Information collection is a tool. Investigative journalism, intelligence collection, whatever, it's all the same. I know this because I've done it all. Okay? And the other thing I want you to take away is this. These tactics, this type of collection is being employed against you every day. Now, it's not just the government. Okay? It's not just a foreign entity, might not even be a foreign entity, but it's being done to you by businesses who want to collect valuable marketing data. It's being done to you by political parties, both left and right, to find out how you might vote, how many people you have in your household. Case in point, Jennifer Psaki back in 2022 announced that they were going to start the COVID door knocking program. When I looked into that program, I realized all of the companies contracted for that program were Democratic polling companies. They were there to collect data on you. Okay, so that's the other takeaway, is that it happens all the time. When I was a private investigator, and then when I was a competitive intelligence operator, so many times people would say to me, well, I don't think anyone will spy on me because I don't have anything that they'd be interested in. I'm not that important. You have no idea what they're interested in. I might be trying to get information from you, so you drop a name, so then I could go after that name and then drop your name to sound like I know you. You just don't know. I might be collecting on you because I want to do you harm. I could be a criminal element. I could be anything. I could be a crazy neighbor. So just think of intelligence that way. It is a tool, okay? And there are some people that are especially good at it. And thank God the one I'm introducing is on our side. She is a journalist by trade, okay? And she employs very, very good traditional investigative journalism tactics, if you ask me, to get people to talk, to elicit information from people, okay? And we've talked about competitive intelligence a lot on this show. It's the same tactics as this style of investigative journalism. She also does many other things. I'm going to let her tell you all about that. She's been a pundit. She has her own podcast, which she set aside so she could help in her testimony with the J6 prisoners, illegal prisoners. And she put a lot of dedication into that. And we will definitely throw together a montage when we post this recording to give some honor to that. I'm very impressed by this person. We met just the other day, had a long conversation. I really like the work she does, and I wanted to share it with you. And hopefully when you come away with this, you'll have a better sense of the work it takes to get good, important information for the people you're serving. Okay, in this case, you guys, our American public. And I also want you to walk away from it and think, what can I do? If I see something, what can I do to help protect my neighbors, my community? Maybe I'll take a closer look. Don't worry about, is it wrong that I take a closer look? Is it wrong that I'm pretending to be this guy's friend so he tells me things? No, it's not wrong. Okay, because the way I look at it, you have to make your own decision. The way I look at it, it's about getting the information that will protect you, your family, and your community. And some people are not okay with that. I am. Okay, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get information if it protects me, my family, you, our community, and this country. So without much further ado, let me bring onto the stage Alicia Powe, incredible journalist and the voice behind those videos, finally. And how are you doing, Alicia?
Thank you for having me, Brian, and thank you for that lovely introduction. A lot of the times it feels like this work has been in vain. And unless you're out in the front, you're not going to necessarily get the accolade and the rewards that come along with being a talking head or influencer. But, one of the first things President Trump did upon taking office was defund PBS. And there's more to that story. There's more that former principal counsel said that we never published at Project Veritas. That was a months-long investigation. That was kind of on the back burner from some of the other things we did at that time. That was, I guess, leading up to the 2020 presidential election. And the last time I saw Mr. Beller was on January 6th. Actually, the last time I saw him was
Mr. Beller. Was he the gentleman in the PBS video?
Yes, he also had said that we should have Sesame Street with a Trump character replacing Oscar the Grouch and call him Trumpy. He was like adamant, seriously saying we should go to the woods and throw Molotov cocktails at the White House. And I mean, I think it's so easy to, it's the same, like the left, they just want to be cool by saying the most hateful stuff, right? Like just say F Trump if you're a comedian over the years, or F the Republicans, and the crowd, yay, hooray, you're a star overnight. That's all it takes to get accolade in Hollywood or in the left or in all those networks like PBS and CBS and CNN. But that man, we never finished publishing the rest on PBS because he was fired immediately after.
I saw that. Good job. Good job.
Well, look, I didn't think that was so great because I wanted to dismantle PBS. It's not. He's just a symptom of the system. He's not the culprit of the main problem.
Well, they say that hyenas take down elephants one bite at a time. I think he took a very big bite if he got the lead counsel fired, and he got himself fired. He didn't get him fired. He said it.
Well, get this. So I started covering January 6th when I saw two, I would say, peers that I always saw in conservative media circles, Enrique Tarrio and Joe Biggs, their January 6th trial. They were sentenced to the longest, they were handed the longest sentences than any of the J6ers. Enrique, 22 years when he wasn't in DC during January 6th, and Joe Biggs, who merely walked around the building for 15 minutes, was sentenced to 17 years. And so at Enrique's sentencing hearing, I looked to my side and there's Michael Beller. I think he had seen me doing broadcasts about the Proud Boys trial, came to sit next to me in the courtroom while Enrique is being sentenced to 22 years. my heart is gonna like, I'm about to like puke. Do I stay and see my friend get sentenced to 22 years, or do I get the heck out of there? And he started like coming down the. I went down the stairs while he was looking for me right after, and that was dangerous. So
Yeah.
you do
Well,
put yourself in the line of fire doing this work.
before we get into all those details, let me just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. How let's start with where were you in college? How did you get into this work? You know, and how you got so into this work that you find yourself in the field, undercover, basically, getting people to talk. And then we'll get into, I'm going to pick your brain. I want to know how you, if it's instinct, if you were trained. But tell the audience about yourself, your journey that got you to this point.
Well, let's see. Let's start off with being a student throughout elementary school, and then being in the heart of Manhattan and throughout high school, and feeling like, is it growing up mean being a follower? There were all these
Failing.
cliques, the white
Were you
clique, the
failing
nerdy
at?
clique,
Were you
the
failing
black
at your?
clique.
Were you failing at career, or were you failing in school?
No, in high
When you said,
school.
gotcha, okay.
In high school, I just was just like, this is just about being a follower. I'm just not interested in all of these cliques. It doesn't seem like it's about academia. I felt like an outsider. I had blended into
Wow.
every clique at one point or another, being multiracial, and I guess a natural code switcher, as they say in political science.
So
Able to speak
you
mostly,
found yourself
able to
kind
speak
of
ghetto, able to speak proper.
right. So you found like the education system seemed more focused on, you know, your where you stand in society, if you're popular, and that seemed to be more important. That'd be
Well, that, and
terrible.
also I was already becoming radicalized. 9/11 happened when I was in high school,
Hmm.
and people. I saw kids coming into class crying that they saw planes go through the building. My high school is just a few miles away from World Trade Center, and
Mm.
then I was galvanized by the professors who were, the teachers, the high school teachers were against Bush, and we all would leave school and go to a left-wing protest. And then I got in the underground hip hop New
Wait.
Eurekan
Time out.
crowd
Time out.
where there's like,
Quick question. You're saying what? How long? So when you say radicalized, galvanized, so they, how long after 9/11 did you see? Did they turn and say he's bad? I mean, that's a really interesting point you brought up about Manhattan schools, and you said the teachers as well. How long after? Because I recall I was in First Special Forces at the time, actually getting ready to do a airborne operation that morning at Fort Lewis in the Seattle area, and it seemed to me from our end that everyone was kind of behind, like unified for a split second. So, and I know it kind of started falling apart quickly. How long after 9/11 would you say did people start saying now Bush is bad? And
about a year after, for the duration
okay,
of Bush's term, all the way up until Bush didn't stand with Trump, was Bush suddenly like, a good guy, right? I mean,
right,
I would say by the time 2-3 years after 9/11, there was radical left wing protest.
hmm,
So then after high school, I mean, going with the underground hip hop world, I mean, nearly all the lyrics are in that underground hip hop world in New York back then. They're all like the New World Order, where they almost get it, but they're all ants. They all hate Republicans. And I would say, and I remember sitting on a rock in Central Park, everyone smoking marijuana, and they're like, well, someone
hmm,
comes up to us to ask us to register to vote. And you're like, are you a Democrat or Republican? We're all asking each other. Oh,
that's
my
interesting.
grandpa's a Democrat. And, Republicans are for the rich white people, and Democrats are for the poor and the minorities. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
Democrats. And
wow,
so I went to the left wing protests, and I got galvanized with that whole ideology, and I hated Bush. But then
right,
one of my friends, who was a very gifted poet, he got killed. And that's what
I'm
that
sorry.
prompted me to start asking God questions, like, a 18-year-old can get killed just like that. He was one of my
Mm,
good friends, and he's very talented, despite all ideology. We're still all kids. And I just started self-reflecting, and asking. I was confronted by someone who was an independent, and I had just came from DC for my the first time going to a protest, an anti-war Bush protest,
Right. So
and
you're in
everyone was burning American.
you're in college at this time?
I'm in my last year of high school.
Last year of high school. And
Or a
so
year after high
about
school. I had taken a year off. I was
okay.
18.
So it's like what year was this
And
then?
like 2003.
Okay, so was
And
this that protest in DC that had the mother of the slain soldier and then everyone else who brought their own signs, that sort of thing? And I think the early
maybe it's hard to think back. It was
yeah.
not in our name. And the folks who I went
Oh.
there with, they were musicians, and they're still socialists, and they're still wearing their like anarchy gear and doing rock band anarchy concerts. They're in Hollywood like sector of that entertainment industry. And I left that protest so demoralized. I was like, what is this accomplish? Burning the American flag. I still had patriotism ingrained in me from when I was a child. But, the culture is so prevalent. And then when I came back from that protest, I was approached by an independent thinker. And they said, was Abraham Lincoln a Republican or a Democrat? And a couple of other questions along that line. And I was like, you know what? I've been a total failure throughout high school. I don't know. And this Eureka moment happened, and he was shocked because I didn't defend. And that's normally what you find people to defend and defend and defend, even though they haven't looked into the matter at all. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm effing dumb. And that, from that moment, and I think it was at that time, it was like right after Saddam Hussein had been killed. So that's around the time frame it was. And
Gotcha, okay.
I started digging for this one answer. First of all, what's the difference between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party? And I started learning and understanding media bias. And I had
where were you doing that on? Were you doing that on your own, or was that did you
that was just
start
became
attending
my
different
full-time,
classes?
like
Okay.
I
Interesting.
was coaching. I was a street vendor, and I'd make a lot of money selling my art in the street. And I would crochet and watch the news all day and watch documentaries all day. And really, I studied in college. Well, I didn't become a political science major yet, but in 1 year, investigating, I took a year off from college. I went from being like a CD student, and I took that year off, and I interrogated my religion, interrogated politics and history.
What was your religion?
And I became a Republican. I was the first registered Republican in my family ever. Probably in my whole school, mostly.
Now you said something earlier. You said that patriotism was ingrained into you. Tell me about, as much as you're comfortable, your family. Like where are you guys? Are your parents born in America? And because what I find is like legal immigrants tend to be the most patriotic. But you'd mentioned that. But you also mentioned that you guys live in Manhattan, so there's a lot of competing forces here. Were you kind of tell me about like where you got that early patriotism that you mentioned earlier?
First of all, my dad was born in Jamaica. Born in 1942, so the tradition is very much of like old British tradition.
Sure.
And then he came here and served in the Vietnam War when he was 18 or 17, and 18 he went off to war. And I mean, he would always talk about how much pride he had being in the military and honored that time in the service, even though what our troops were getting drugged up back then. He came back home from where is it, Cambodia or whatever, with duffel bags of marijuana in like the 60s. But I went to Catholic. My mom's from Harlem, and I went to Catholic school. I think that also ingrained. It was a very strict school. I was, like I said, I was an A student until I had this. What the hell is going on? We're supposed to be followers at the age of like 13. And just became demoralized with it all. But,
gotcha.
We'd say our Pledge of Allegiance every morning. We'd stand
I remember
in our
those
uniforms,
days.
ironed, and stand straight tall in line.
So the it's interesting. Like, so my parents, my dad's originally from Ireland, but They both met in the Bronx, so New Yorkers as well. And then my dad went to the Navy, not because he was a patriot, because these are back in the days where, like, you know, if you were kind of a bit of a thug and a criminal, you could go to the Navy or go to jail. He's actually one of those guys. But he always loved the country because he's an entrepreneur. And he went around the world while he was in the Navy, got out, he made his way back. So it's good. I mean, it sounds like a very similar upbringing, but we left New York. And when I went back and started living in Manhattan, it wasn't until I would say probably about 2013, 2014, around the time I met my current wife. And just seeing like right outside our apartment in the West Village, the whole time I was there, they had that inflated Trump baby, whatever it was. And that was always on the street. I was always, yeah, and I was always like, what is that? Like, you know, as an investigator, you know, when you get into a case, you tend to end up kind of in the center because you're not really in the center. You're just kind of like focused on your case. So I wasn't really keeping up on politics and everything. I knew a lot of people hated Trump, but, you know, it seems they hate every president to some degree. So I didn't pay attention and I didn't see that. But going back and you know, as things got towards the pandemic, I started noticing the outsized covert influence in the graffiti, the messaging. I saw it when we went to Oxford as well, like the debates in pubs. It was very socialist, very not just anti-Trump, but anti-sovereignty, anti-nationalism, anti-populism. What was your experience? So you were growing up in that kind of, but you went to college, did you move to DC or did you stay and do college in New York? And what was your experience with that outside of college and inside of college?
Inside of college is a joke. But it kind of forged my character for what would take place later in life.
Right.
You know, I was very timid. I was a timid artist. And where I gained more posterity or confidence, at least being a public speaker, incrementally was in the classroom. Well, of course, being a street vendor, selling my art, but in the classroom, being the only different thinking person, and thinking different is just not allowed.
I'm surprised they let you stay.
I became that Republican chick in school in every class.
I'm surprised they let you stay. Yep.
Well, the thing is, so that 1 year off too, not only did I like intentionally and consistently study American history, but and religion and scrutinize my religion, but also I would work out like at 5 a.m, get up and run and just change my physique to like you get back the confidence that you had when you were a kid that the society steals away from you. So with that confidence and going back to college, it was like the first day. It was just a synchronicity. It's kind of like it's when your calling is like approaching you over and over again. I can look back to then. My first political science class, they're like, oh, the professor says, was Abraham, if he was around in our day, he would have been a liberal and a socialist. And it's like, wait, and I would have to write down what I'm going to say. My hand would be trembling and I'd push back. And this would just be what would happen for the next 4 years until like the professor would say, don't raise your hand, not you. Like they would get nasty.
They would actually say that.
Like, well,
they would actually they would actually censor you in class. Like they wouldn't call on you.
Yes. These people are straight up Marxist. And not only that, everything Marxism was infused in gym class, English class. Oh no, but then you get to the like you start studying, you know, Greek philosophy, and they're just straight up pushing sodomy. Like every book in an English class in one of my last semesters that I had to switch out. I wish I was an investigative journalist back then. I would have so much content.
Well,
of what goes
it sounds like you're well on your.
To go back to school.
Yeah, sounds like you're well on your way. And for the audience, I do apologize. We have a slight delay, so if we seem like we're talking over each other, we're trying not to. But there's something that I need you to unpack for me. Marxism in gym class? Explain how that manifests. What would that look like?
at the time, like, I don't think people understand, and I disagree with President Bush now, right? After
Oh
went on
yeah,
from there to be the first White House intern in my college, remember? So I couldn't stand
right.
Bush, and then I woke up and I became a strong Bush supporter, and now I don't agree with Bush and where he stands today. But
It
every
stands
class,
on.
there was as much hatred
Yeah.
for Bush, excuse me, as much hatred for Bush as there was Trump.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And you could say people who weren't politically engaged back then don't know how Democrats used
Right.
to hate Trump all day, every day, all day. And they used to praise Hugo Chavez and
That's
socialism
right.
and
Yeah. Yes.
equality.
I remember those the
I mean,
80s and
again,
the 90s. The 80s and the 90s throughout Manhattan. That was like when those Che Guevara t-shirts got really popular. And I don't know if you noticed, but like Obama used the same pattern to do his Hope t-shirts. It was the same, like you're
I
the
never
artist, it's the
supported
same
Obama.
style. So yeah. Oh, I did too.
No, I never supported Obama, right? I liked
Oh,
his charm. I liked
I
his
actually did.
different,
Yeah.
but I knew he was a socialist from the first time he opened his mouth.
Hmm.
Again, I was so engaged into the news cycle back then, which has dramatically shifted in some ways. The media
Hmm.
landscape has, but so yeah, college, and then no, I'd get up to. I worked on the Rudy Giuliani Presidential Committee,
Mm.
and I'd get up, and my peers and friends and family would be like, "Oh, you're gonna go work for a Republican when you're poor? You're not rich and you're not white," and literally laugh at me. People would, but like I had so much confidence that I just kind of looked at them like idiots. But I did get bullied and ostracized, kicked out, my grades tampered with for not adhering to the group think,
Really?
and
Wow.
I loved it. When I left college,
Huh.
when I finished college, I'm like, what am I going to do now? That was like my life debating these professors.
Mm.
And
Well,
so
hold
here I
that thought for
am.
a second. Hold that thought for a second. Let me just really quickly give a shout out to our audience that joined us. Wild Rose, thanks for joining us. Veiled Nomad, that is a cool, one of the coolest names ever. And then Roscoe, welcome back. I like Roscoe's comment. Check this one out. So I've given up, honestly, of having any allegiance towards anyone because it just is constant. I hear you, Roscoe. It's something's going on here. Why did she say interrogated her religion? Okay, that's a question for you.
Well, inherited beliefs. Sure, we can preserve tradition, but make
Hmm.
sure what you're believing and regurgitating is something that you've considered,
Mm.
right? That you've explored, that you've
Right.
investigated. Like, there's so many people. First of all, 70% of the world was illiterate farmers until like 70 years ago. So, how are we
Hmm.
passing on this religion for, like, have you read the Bible from cover to cover and explored other religions and then come to your conclusion about what you call yourself or identify as? That's my view. Of course, we have a First Amendment for a reason, and that's what makes America
Yeah, I
glorious. You have the freedom of
I would agree with
religion.
that too. Like if you're going to make an argument, know your argument. If you're going to profess a religion, know what it is. Totally agree with you on that. Really quickly, let me just say a quick word about our sponsors. And by the way, your amount of energy is making me jealous, and it brings up my first sponsor, which is Native Path. Have you heard of Native Path?
No.
They're one of our sponsors here. Oh, I don't have my little jars. I'm going to send you some of this stuff. So, Native Path right here is collagen, which is all the rage right now, but it works really well. Like for instance, I'm 97 years old. I still have a full head of hair, and I thank Native Path's collagen. I'm not 97, but the thing that I love the most that they have at Native Path is they have this. It's called Native Hydrate, and it's like all the amino acids. It's all natural, low carb. They have peach flavor, berry flavor, and I have a 14-year-old budding football star, and I literally am hiding my Native Path from him because it's so hydrating. It's so good. It's delicious. But we love all their products. Really good CEO, and I've done my due diligence on them, as you know I would. But go to getnativepath.com/daily clout. You will get 45% off. And if you're not, look, if you're post 30 years old and you're not taking collagen, it's a really bad idea. I also like it too. Alicia, you're obviously a fitness nut. You were talking about your working out and everything, but I think a lot of people don't get enough protein as they get older. I think they're on the go. They grab a sandwich, they grab a wake up wrap. I'm guilty of it. What I like about the collagen is I throw a scoop in my coffee. That's 8 grams of protein as well, and you don't taste it. It's wonderful. So go to getnativepat.com/daily clout. Stock up. Be healthy. Be strong. Just like Alicia here, and you too will do great things like take down the lead councils and expose a lot of evils in the world. You cannot do this job, and Alicia, I'm sure you can attest to this, if you're not hydrated and you're not strong, because you will run out of energy. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you gotta take care of your body. That's for sure. Especially this day and age, our minds, our souls, and bodies are under attack.
Oh, they really are.
Maybe
So,
always
all right.
have been.
So really,
It always has
so let's.
been.
Yeah, no, you mentioned your father coming home from Vietnam with the duffel bags, and how they used to test things on them. That's very true. That's been proven. I was thinking when you were saying that, like when I was in from 92 to 2003 on active duty, I was mainly in special forces units. I wasn't a Green Berets intelligence team that was attached to their teams. And we used to have shot month. And I'm kind of pivoting into the COVID work that you did, so you know where I'm going. But we would have shot day every month. And I've got to pull my shot records, because I've got to say, I was getting like 4 or 5 shots a month. And everything from, they claimed Japanese encephalitis. I refused the rabies shot because I saw the horrible side effects of that. But yeah, we were getting like, you'd walk in and boom, 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 like 2 in each arm. And they just sign it off in your shot record. And that was it. And I never really questioned back then, okay, what the hell am I getting? Like I would today. So you kind of became interested in what was going on during the pandemic, which I always put in air quotes. Is that where you started? You're really, I would say you're really aggressive journalism, and aggressive in a good way, like really going, digging for the facts and going outside and getting them. Where would you say you started really becoming? Mhm.
Oh, sorry, you cut off at the end of your sentence there. But let's say I got my real first investigative journalism chops, other than just being like a staff writer. I mean, really covering Seth Rich at WorldNet Daily was when my editor was superb, and she'd send me out to the hospital. He got killed. Where he died. She sent me to. Went to his neighborhood, talked to the neighbors. I mean, I got in touch with first Rod Wheeler before he was on Fox News. I spoke to everyone involved in the Seth Rich murder case. And that was like also.
Can you explain who Seth?
I guess.
Can you explain who Seth Rich is for the audience?
Seth Rich was an employee with the Democrat National Committee who allegedly leaked the emails to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, the DNC and Clinton campaign emails in 2016. He was killed in July 10th, 2016, in an alleged botched robbery. Nothing was taken from him, though. He was, in this alleged robbery, he still had his wallet, credit cards, money.
And he was shot in the back,
it just didn't seem much like a robbery. I believe so. I haven't looked at the ballistics report in a while. This is still being litigated. There's still Ty Clevenger, a crusading attorney, who's still on the case, demanding the FBI turn over the documents they said they didn't have. Now they do have. Now they won't turn them over. And I haven't followed up with that in a long time. But that was also like the crux of the Russia probe, was that these emails were leaked, and Trump allegedly colluded with Russia to hack the emails in the DNC server, which there was no hack. Seth Rich, most likely, as Julian Assange alludes to, leaked the emails, because what they were doing, what those emails showed they were doing, is what you're never allowed to talk about again. Like, for the first time, the social media companies and the corporate press called it fake news, which is, first, we found out that Tony Podesta, John Podesta's brother, who John Podesta is the Clinton campaign manager, former Clinton campaign manager. His brother, a very wealthy lobbyist, Tony Podesta, is asking satanic occult leader Marina Abramovic if John's coming to the spirit cooking dinner tonight.
Right.
And then
Yes.
there's a trove of emails in which they're like bizarrely mentioning, like, oh, how many hot dogs are you going to bring to the party with the walnuts? And I don't even like talking about it. It's so morbid. It does make you wonder if that was some sort of deliberate psyop, because it goes to such dark places. But you can look at the art of the elite left. It's so disturbing.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the art that was in Comet
Pizza?
What's the name of the pizzeria?
Yeah,
Comet
Comet.
Ping Pong, whatever it was.
Yeah,
I went in that place, and I got freaked out because it just has that.
When was that? When did you go there?
Off of the walls.
When did you go there?
I was in 2017 to 2018, where I was really heavily covering Seth Rich. And then, of course, because you can't really keep a job and go with a network. You get banned, you get censored, you get sued, you get raided. And then Google outright says we're never going to let another Trump situation happen again, like they told Project Veritas in 2018, and they mean it, right? You get defunded. So I moved with I stopped with the Seth Rich stuff at WorldNet Daily as they got basically debanked and shut down by Google and had to downsize. I still contribute there now, but for covering stuff that people wouldn't touch.
And I've seen that you.
We're covering all kinds of stuff there, and I continued with Seth Rich from there, and then that was before Project.
Hold on, we had a little technical glitch here.
But
there we go.
So yeah, there's a lot to. Here's the thing. I will say one of the main things that brought me down this path, and why I decided to look up the difference between the two parties, is if you go to the ghetto, you go to the hood, which I've always had one foot in the hood and one foot not, right? Yeah, and I'm multiracial. You say, why are black people so ghetto? Why is there such a high black crime rate? And then you look at the voting margins of that demographic, and it's like 90% Democrat. But then you look and you say, well, this is the party of the Ku Klux Klan, segregation, secessionists during the Civil War. And when did those two parties switch? The two parties switch is what everyone says, like, go to sleep, the two parties switch. Well, I'll be darned. That two switch never happened. And my thesis on that is what led to me being the White House intern, first from John Jay College, just working on that. And Dinesh D'Souza also explores this in his film The Big Lie. Talking too fast here. A lot of information.
No. Keep going.
Himself and don't just accept.
Really quickly though, let me just say hello. Let me say hello to the audience. So Roscoe didn't like that you scrutinize religion, but that's okay, Roscoe. You can or you don't have to. That's totally up to you. I scrutinize my religion. Well, don't confuse religion with faith. It's like I was questioning my Catholic priest at confirmation when I said it seems kind of odd that I have to do all this if God is omniscient. He knows what's in my heart. Why do I have to go through all this? Now, granted, I wasn't a religious kid. I was Irish Catholic, but I just wanted to get to the arcade, and I was looking for a way to get there. But
I was Catholic too. I went to Catholic school.
No, you mentioned that when we talked earlier. So, Roscoe, I totally hear. I hear where you're going, but I don't think there's anything wrong with scrutinizing, the rules, the religion, the dogma, and even questioning, your beliefs. You should, I think, question everything, and you might not get the answers, but and I do understand the difference. What faith is, I get that, but I think God gave us these big brains, to question things so we can use them. But that's just my opinion. Doesn't mean your opinion's wrong.
By default, I'm supposed to be obese, on welfare, dropped out of high school, good Democrat. That's what I'm supposed to be. or
Oh
chopping
yeah.
my body parts off, being a Instagram model. Like that's what it's supposed to be.
Insta. Oh, that's great. And when you're saying ghetto and hood, I was thinking, yeah, my son was telling me that I live in the hood here in like I have a place in Salem, Massachusetts, and I said, wait a minute, it's not bad here. And he's like, well, it doesn't seem bad to you, but you walk around like you want to kill everyone. And he goes, and I go, well, wait a minute, where's the hood? And he goes, oh, that's Lynn. And I'm like, oh my, I didn't know there's a difference. So who knows? But
My
that's
dad
funny
said
that you
once,
said that.
and he's right. It's usually across the train tracks, the other
Yeah,
side of
yeah.
the train tracks.
Other
in
side of the tracks,
every
yeah.
town.
Well, in Maine, where I primarily grew up, we moved from the Bronx to Maine, not by choice, So we were very, very poor, and in Maine it was interesting because there was like the poor, then there were the lower income where we kind of fit into the working class lower income, and then there were the rich. Like there was no in between that. But it was divided not by like neighborhood, it was divided by road because it's kind of not even suburban. It's like somewhere between suburban and rural. But like there was Lambs Mill Road, and you didn't go up Lambs Mill Road unless you knew someone up there. That's where the trailer parks were. And then there was, the certain, like the condominiums came in. That was a big deal because we never saw that in Maine. So those were our hoods and ghettos. But it's interesting. And it's interesting, Harlem was like a rough spot. I remember going there. We used to go to the Bronx to visit my family like every month, and like Harlem is like expensive now.
Yeah.
I'm just
There's
throwing it
actually
out
lots
there.
of white people in Harlem nowadays, right? And here's the thing: in New York City, especially in Manhattan, you can have the housing projects here, and then the movie stars are living across the parking lot, across the street, in some high rise. They're paying like $10,000 a month rent. Then you have the
It's
bodega
insane.
over there. It's just a whole big, literally a melting pot. And everyone's way more wealthy than they realize because the cost of living in that city is just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no,
Designed to keep everyone poor.
we have a place in Brooklyn, and we used to live in the West Village, and it was just astronomical. And we have family, kids down there, and thank God my daughter lives in the city, and she's very savvy with finding like she can navigate like the rent control and all that, so she gets into good places for very cheap. But it's tough, and now and the taxes and the hidden fees, and with Mondami coming in and all that. But I want to shift gears here though, because I know the audience is dying, and thank you for your background. It's very, I totally connect with that because it sounds very similar to mine a little bit, where I kind of was like, I was never really, one thing I'll say is soldiers tend to be apolitical. A lot of people don't realize that because we follow whoever's in charge. That's what being a good soldier is. But I remember when I met my wife, I'd go to her, and she was really like in the elite left of Manhattan. She was Gore's campaign advisor for a while, and then we were always at parties for The Guardian and Toni Morrison and stuff like that, and working out at Equinox. And I remember someone said to me at a party, they said, "So I guess you're voting for Trump?" And I said, "Well, I don't really talk about who I vote for, but why would you say that?" And they said, "Well, you're ex-military." I'm like, and just like Naomi was on CNN back then, I forgot there's two bald guys. I always get them confused. They have their own shows. And he said, so I guess you'll be voting for Clinton. And she's like, why would I do that? And this is like 2016. And he said, well, she's one of your own gender. And she's like, I don't vote on gender lines. She's like, personally, I think Hillary Clinton's a warmonger. And she's like, so that's not how I vote. I keep my vote to myself. But like, just because we share a gender doesn't make her good. And so I found that was really interesting. But I do want to shift gears on you really quickly. People are dying to know.
Oh my gosh, Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we'll in
Hillary
another
Clinton's
show.
got to be the most
Terrible.
like just fugitive on the loose just gets away with it. Like, high time, like, lock her up, President Trump. Like, it's never gonna happen. Just move on.
And have you ever noticed she
All
dresses?
the evidence is there to put her in
Have
jail.
have you ever noticed like all of her outfits look like she's a North Korean dictator? Like they're almost the exact same outfits that Kim Jong Un wears. Yeah. So go ahead.
Not pleasant to listen to or look at and learn about. She's not a person. Please carry on.
Yeah, no, please, because I know they're dying to hear a little methodology here. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about that PBS video. All right. So without giving away trade secrets of who you're working for, let me ask you this. How do you go about selecting a target or spotting and assessing, this unwitting asset basically is what he is. How do you approach and tell us what that conversation is like? How do you keep it going? I did hear while he was talking, and he's like, we got to put all these kids in camps. And I was laughing because I hear you say, amen, and I think that's hard for a lot of people.
I was saying, amen, I finally got content.
I know. And
amen,
so
keep talking.
Walk the audience through the steps to get to that table. Is it you? Is it a team? I've done a lot of this work. I did it completely alone. But, and then, do you go in with a certain set of questions that you memorize? And what are your actions on the ground? Let's say this guy says, hey, are you wearing a wire? So take us from the moment a target is picked to getting there, the approach. How do you do that? Do you use your real name? I mean, I think the audience is really curious about that. And then were you trained in certain elicitation techniques, or is this just natural because, where you lived and being a street vendor, you do learn a lot about human nature. So can you walk us through just a typical operation with the PBS one as an example?
Say, first of all, it depends on which company or what kind of content you're looking for on how you're going to get that inroad to get close to the source. And you can be very creative and conduct stakeouts and this sort of thing. In this instance, Michael Beller was bragging about his acumen as a PBS principal counsel and his parading his left wing bona fides on the Bumble app, the dating app.
Oh,
and I
really?
honestly disliked using the dating apps. Out of all the ways to get content, I felt the most uncomfortable going about that, because then you're really playing with someone's heart. And some lonely guy thinks that they're going to find a wife or something, and then you pull the plug and you burn them and you destroy their career. I don't really have the heart to go down that path, and I didn't. I pulled out a story because I didn't feel like that was right. But better ways to get to a source and more investigative ways to get it done. And that's my personal opinion. You got to get content, and it's your job to get content. Not everybody's cut out. But
yeah, I hear you.
I would say at the Georgia World Congress Center, you go and
that's the what?
Develop an alias.
Say that again.
Develop an alias first of all.
Oh no, the what Congress Center?
At the Georgia World Congress Center, where you can see there's a little excerpt of their 2-month expose that was never finished published there, when I captured ballot harvesting. And what happened after that should have been published, but keys weren't in my hands. But you develop an alias. It depends on where you're going, on what kind of alias you want to cultivate.
So do you build a full
rich?
Do you build a full backstop? Set up some LinkedIn pages, social media, and all that in case they check you out.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the delay.
Actually, first of all, James O'Keefe, it's probably my computer. He had a spectacular team of experts that I still am very good friends with. And James had an amazing company during that time. So I'm grateful to have worked with all of them and James during that time. But it was a very special time. back in 2020 and 2021. And so anyway, yes, we had the works. I mean, we had the budget to do whatever we needed to do. I mean, if you wanted to rent out a whole restaurant and have some extravagant party for the source coming, then we could do that at the time. Or, but I think there's a few gritty ballot harvesting investigations that
tell us all about them.
Some of them weren't published. One of them wasn't published because the culprits in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I got very close to Wanda Jeter, and the mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut was like smoking my vape and like trying to invite me out to the parties, and they were ballot harvesting all day. But I found out we had intel. Found intel from the homeless people around that they're involved in the mafia. So we got out of there. And
wait. You keep burying the lead. What? They were involved in a mafia? You gotta unpack that for us. And I like that you're. I love your style that you're talking to every source you can. Look. I mean, in the intelligence world, the formal intelligence, they can't train this kind of instinct. So, tell us why you talk to the homeless people, and please tell us about this mafia thing. This is so interesting.
Well, okay. I probably wouldn't have mentioned this in the past, but things have changed since then. With
right.
And you know, tradecraft is expensive, and it's just a magic secret. But I'll tell you about this one time in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was Selena Rodriguez, and why'd I pick that name? Because I needed to be infiltrating like the projects where the ballot harvesters lived. How'd I find out that these were the ballot harvesters we needed to investigate? The Heritage Foundation had a long list of people who had been previously arrested or suspected of ballot harvesting and election fraud. So I found 3 people who were in Bridgeport, Connecticut that were involved in ballot harvesting and got away with it. And one of them was Wanda Jeter. So I went door to door in the ghetto projects of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I just started saying, "Hey, you know Wanda? you know Wanda." I remember how I got classified.
That is so funny.
I told them I was a Black Lives Matter. I'm a Black Lives Matter activist, and I want to run for office. And I'll be able to like change my dialect when need be. Turn it up.
Sure. I mean, and look, you grew up in Harlem, and you grew up in Harlem, and you know, it's a lot of, you know, it's nice now, but it's like, yeah, I know Harlem, and it's like, and I know New York. There's a lot of adjacent communities that are not so nice.
New Yorkers speak different kinds of English when need be, a lot of the time. So
that is so funny.
Then I run into Wanda Jeter's cousin. He's like, "Oh, Wanda's over there, and this state building over there." So I knock on the door. It's COVID. Everything's shut down. And we were traveling the country throughout the whole COVID. I never wore a mask unless, you know, you had to get in the door. But
it's I mean, you gotta admit that the mask was probably useful for your work.
Sometimes it was, absolutely. Especially because we don't want to be seen. Like that's not our gig to be seen or noticed or have any notoriety. But you're inviting me to talk about what happened 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So weird. We go into, I walk in, I say, "Hi, I'm Selena Rodriguez. I'd like to run for office with Black Lives Matter." I'm with Black Lives Matter. I had the Black Lives Matter pins and badges and all this. Immediately, I'm ingratiated. I go with her niece, door to door, picking people up to go to the ballots to vote. She's picking people up from the projects to go vote. And they're going to have a celebration to brag about how they rigged the election later. Anyway, last year, or 6 months ago, she's arrested. The mayor of Bridgeport's arrested for election fraud. And why couldn't we go forward? Because they were also a part of the mafia.
Wow. Well, now you're talking about this, and you know, what's your? I mean, hopefully your security situation's pretty tight, because as we know, the whether it's the real mafia or the voting mafia, these suckers are kind of dangerous. What do you do? I mean, you're out there alone, you're doing this, and look, the work you're talking about is very, like, I remember, for instance, I would send my guys, or I'd go in myself, to everything from, the save the, stop the pipeline protests to, real cowboy type stuff. And I was constantly changing who I was. But it's dangerous, whether you're doing, because people find out, they're going to be pissed. What do you have, like,
Yeah, it's kind of.
do you kind of do a
talk about this,
I mean, do you?
it feels
No, you're not
trivial
dumb.
'cause it's so long ago.
It's not trivial at all. It's, I think it's very important because, look, what I want to kind of, like, and I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. It's the delay, so I apologize. But I don't want a point to be missed here. I talked about earlier, about, got to be careful of who's around you, because everyone's collecting intel these days. And when you mentioned your Selena Rodriguez, which is hilarious, what I find is that it's so easy to say the right things and just get people's blind trust. As you know, we talked offline, the organization I set up is currently investigating a certain company, which we're going to release those results this week, so I won't say the company. But when I watch the evolution of this online pharmacy win over a huge MAGA customer base, and they did it with influencers, and they did it by putting a hell of a lot of red, white, and blue all over their website. And I think people are going to be shocked when they realize who these people are. They're just, I won't give an opinion because I'm not supposed to, but it's really interesting that people let their guard down on either side so easily if you just kind of own your identity and charge forward. Have you found that's always the case?
Well, one of the first tips, one of the first training sessions that was supposed we had is one, to STF you, to shut the up, and also it's not all about me. To be a very effective undercover journalist, and this is also tradecraft used by the intelligence agencies, and of course that company Veritas did lean on former intelligence agency officials, intelligent officials.
You don't say.
And it's not all about this. If you just allow people to talk about themselves and listen and be a good listener, people actually feel that you're, like, they'll look at you like you're their best friend and trust you if you're a good listener. Because people, it actually releases, good hormones to be listened to. That's why so many people love going to therapy, to be heard and listened to. And
That's true.
Yeah, if you want to be a good spy, you really don't have to say much. In fact, the less you say, the better.
That is so true.
I don't know how
That's
comfortable
so true.
I feel even talking about this work publicly.
I think you're doing great. No,
I never really get called on. That's more James's job.
Well, look, I always warn people, and I would tell my investigators this when they went out. I said, if you're talking more than the person you're getting information from, then you're talking too much. And you don't have to sell it, because they're not going to remember you. They don't care about you. They care about you as an audience. And it's very interesting that you'll see people, especially in the intelligence community, people wonder why there's so many leaks and everything. It's because they can't.
A little bit there.
I am so sorry. How about now? Any better?
I'm gonna shut down, make sure I don't have anything running in my background that's causing.
Yeah, let me go ahead and kill that
lag.
video. Yeah. How's that? Is that
I'll
better?
say this. One of the troubling things that.
Is that better?
One of the can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good on this end.
It's like, well, now it's time to purge the corruption on the conservative side, on our and within our own like companies or movements. And that's when you're like, man, it's so corrupt on conservative media. We should expose corruption on the conservative side. But,
It really is. Well, look, it's
or,
everywhere.
Working on
Like-
January 6th is very tricky. These lawyers,
Yeah.
who are representing the defendants, they were not trying to represent the defendants, right? They were, a lot of them were just taking lots of money and doing absolutely nothing and feeling completely apathetic to this whole situation, or proponents of what was happening to them even. So it's a useful tool to be a good investigative journalist and an undercover journalist.
Mm-hmm.
It is dangerous. I don't do that right now. But the skill set is always alive.
Well, I think a good point you bring up, and this is, the warning I would give to the audience, and, so it sounds like, like you and I have a lot of the same experiences in different fields, but, like the investigative work, private investigator, even process serving is, you got to do all the tricks. But, I think what I always warn people about, and I think this is very, very important, is that, you have to, you can't let your guard down. And what I'm seeing on the conservative side, whether you want to call them MAGA, the Republicans, going further out, I've seen a lot of people let their guard down because, he said the right things. He hates liberals, and he's against this and that, and people let their guard down. And I always say grifters are going to grift, and they will move to the next juicy target. Whoever's in power, they're going to hit those orbits. And I'm seeing that now, where people want, for instance, an alternative to, the vaccine. So there's a product out there, right? Ivermectin. And you're going to see a lot of grifters, if we haven't already, jumping into that. People want an alternative to stocks because they saw how mutual funds were corrupted by green energy stocks and all this. So there's a lot of gold vendors out there all of a sudden, right? And it's and that's what I tell people.
Let's
I'm
not
like,
mention cryptocurrency.
oh God, I honestly, like,
A lot of
I'm still
scams
trying to,
with Bitcoin.
and you'll definitely, we've got some work, we got some projects coming up together, so it's like we'll definitely have to talk, because I still can't figure out blockchain for the life of me. But the thing is, it's like people, it's sad because I think people want to believe, people that get suckered or scammed, they want to believe that A, their judgment is good, and B, that people are generally good. And I always try to tell people, like, not all people are generally good. There's some really bad people out there. Like, they should have been put back on the conveyor belt and re-engineered, because there's just bad people. And I know this because it's like, I have some of those people in my family, like career criminals. And they're bad. Nice guys, don't get me wrong. But they will, they're the ones that steal your silver dollar collection as a kid. And then when you get older, I had a member of my family call me. He's like, hey, Brian, man, I know you're good with computers and stuff. I'm trying to get into my computer. I'm just wondering if I could reset the whole thing. I'm like, you stole a computer. That's what you want me to do is no, man, no, that's cool. And I'm like, but so I let people prove they're good to you, is what I say.
War between good and evil going on.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you another question. Is there a separate cameraman, or are you just setting up a camera when you do these things?
You mean undercover stuff?
Yeah, sorry, I shifted back to that because
we wouldn't go out. We wouldn't go out by ourselves. We usually have someone doing B-roll with us for protection. But no, I mean, generally, if we were if we were working at Project Veritas as an undercover journalist, you'd be having 10 cameras on you, and you wouldn't know it.
Right, gotcha.
I feel like that's implicit. But I have to look back to being really inquisitive about how it was done. It's just
the
the good thing about talking about it is to implore more people to go out and protect themselves by arming up with cameras and undercover cameras when need be. As long
Talk
as you're
more about
recording
that.
in a state where it's recorded.
How do people do that, and what's a like an example of a situation where more people should be doing that? Because we have a few in this audience. Autumn is one of them. I don't think she's on tonight. She's been going out on her own and out in Michigan and the voting and everything, and she's made major strides. So you hit on a good point. I want this audience to constantly, well, investigate everything, hence the name of the show, and be like you, be like me.
It
Like,
just depends on the.
yeah.
Sorry. It just depends on the season and the situation. If you were a college student and you're sitting there listening to your teacher trash America and trash God and trash everything that you believe in and being a tyrant, dictator, socialist, or whatever, record them. Bring justice.
So basically,
record for justice.
So basically, what you're saying is,
your lawsuits. It's not
like, listen to your gut. Like, if it sounds wrong, you might not know if it is wrong, but listen to your gut. Like, clearly, if I'm getting this right,
a camera is a weapon. Be a weapon used properly at for certain times, depending on what you need it for. It could save you from some kind of detrimental situation. It could save an election if you're recording.
It can.
Some bad actors breaking the law. And you also have to be mindful of the recording laws in your state. But other than that, I can't think of specific situations where you should strap up undercover cameras.
That's good.
We specifically working to save America 24/7 before Joe Biden took over. And
you hit on something very important, and that's so the Chinese Communist Party, the way they conduct intelligence, they call it 1,000 grains of sand. And what that means is everything's connected. A rock can become 1,000 grains of sand, but it's all part of the same rock. And I've always employed this strategy in everything I do. Like, it drives my son crazy, it drives my wife crazy. I can never leave the house without a few cameras, a dash cam, make sure I got a new SD card, because I record everything, like, very overtly, because you just never know what could be useful. And it comes in handy, and that's what the Chinese Communist Party does. Early in the show I said, well, I don't think anyone's spying on me because I don't have anything that's interesting to them. Not yet, you don't. But you might down the line. You might come in handy. They might need your face for something. And so what they do is they collect everything they can, like a big vacuum, to the point where every Chinese citizen is actually a spy for the state based on their national intelligence law. When you're a citizen of the People's Republic of China, when you come back from abroad, they download all of your texts, all of your photos, all your videos, and then they question you about your contacts, and they take it all. And they see it as the duty of the citizens of the PRC to provide this information to keep the state safe. And so I think everyone should constantly have a camera, record everything. It doesn't mean you're bad. Like, don't record everything. Like, if your friend's in the bathroom, leave him alone. But, the point is, it's like, if you're going into a seminar or you're driving down the street, have a dash cam. If you're going to a rally, have a couple cameras set up, because you're right. You're going to need it. You might not need it, but you have it. You might need it 3 years from now. And so, would you agree with that approach?
We definitely needed it 3 years ago. The climate has shifted, right? I mean, we were in a very totalitarian environment, especially depending on what your political views were or your line of work. Even more so other people than me, because I've always worked in the, right-wing conservative media, what have you, where I say what I want most of the time without penalty. But, if you have that boss who's ostracizing you for something, if you see that online about your political beliefs, you record them. Just protect yourself. And even if you don't publish it anywhere or sue them, you have protection. So definitely back during the COVID pandemic, we record a lot of stuff. I mean, Nazis trying to throw you off the plane for taking a sip. And Nazis, people
Yeah.
became straight up Nazis. I feel like I was
And-
prepared for the COVID pandemic long before it happened. Like I said,
Sure.
talking about people being followers. And
you have a lot of
stuff.
stuff. Like, you have a lot of stuff we were talking offline. I won't go into the detail per your wishes, but you have a lot of stuff that we definitely need to explore and dig into, because, you know, some of the work I've shared with you, my team has shared with you, it's like, you see how, like, everything starts connecting, right? Not everything is connected, but the more you're looking into everything, you know, the more you can say, oh, wait, I know that person from this. I know that person from this. And, so I'm really looking forward to offline, you know, not publicly, you know, that's your choice, but it's like looking at these things, because I bet there's some stuff in there that, like, might even connect to current national cases or local cases. And, you know, that's, you know, that'd be very interesting to explore.
You know, I think also time goes by fast, especially if you're just talking about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. And while we need to inform ourselves and, again, scrutinize our inherited beliefs or scrutinize whatever propaganda is being shoved upon us by the media and the billboards and every agency, it's good to unplug too. Like, politics is kind of like the Maya, the illusion. It's a constant political fight that's going on before we were born. It'll go on when we're long gone. It never ends, and we don't really get that much shut. Like, thank God Trump won. Freedom's always a generation away from extinction. But, like, you know, I think after all this time, I'm not so. Just don't let all the years go away with the news giving you a reason to be angry every day. Of course, there's good people to be, like, watchdogs to protect us, and we need to be informed and to protect ourselves, our family, and our community. But, like, just don't let it take over your mind to the extent where you can't kind of see it for what it is. A fight that's been going on long before we were here, long after, and then next thing you know, you're over there fighting about Democrats and Republicans, and 20 years goes by, and still congressional hearings happening, and nothing was done after that, and they didn't release the files, and no one got arrested. So
I would say,
like, keep fighting.
I would say, like, you know, and you know this as a private intelligence. Yeah, I mean, as, you know, for due diligence and private intelligence professionals, and any intelligence professional, there's never an expectation of an outcome. As you know, it's like, you collect, and there it is. What people do with it is up to them. Like, I would lose my mind. And, you know, that's actually why I originally left the intelligence community, because I had this expectation based on my position, and, you know, I was running big stuff, and nothing would happen, nothing would change. Then I realized, like, you know, my job was not to force change, because that will bias you. My job is to collect based on this question. The reason I've recently kind of shifted, and I started doing this with Luigi Mangione, where, like, I found myself going down that rabbit hole of, like, okay, I'm going to release this and things are going to change. Things only change for one reason, in my opinion, in this world. That's for profit. And so that's why and whether that's right or wrong, people agree or disagree, but that's why I feel I enjoy looking at corruption at the business or entity level a little more, or looking at a really bad murder investigation by the prosecution, because that's actionable. You can make change with that. You can force something at that level, which, if change is what you're after, you know, that will move the tide eventually. But really what I'm after is, like, I just can't stand it when things are wrong and it's so obvious. And I want to share with people why it's wrong and explain how I got there. And so I would say to people, if they're collecting, don't collect trying to prove a theory. That's not what you're doing, but you've probably seen a lot of people online. They have a theory in their head that there's a star chamber of Bill Gates and this guy, and they're doing everything to prove that. Or they have a theory that China is responsible for the, vaccines, or the military industrial complexes. And you're going to be able to find enough evidence to convince people that's the case. But you can do that with such an internet easily. So what I always tell people, I'm like, just collect. Just collect and then triage and then analyze. And let the intelligence lead you to your theory. And then from there, try to disprove your theory. And you'll get to the truth eventually, or you get damn near close to it. Would you agree with that approach, like to not pursue a theory? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe. Sometimes you pursue a theory out of a hunch, and you might
Well,
find
a hunch, yeah.
something, and sometimes it was your instinct pulling you in the right direction. But I also
Right.
think, and again, I saw a couple of times someone saying, "Why interrogate your religion?" Well, I think also just learning something that I wasn't quite keen on when I was younger is like thoughts or energy, right? I think I learned that, like, and that also became like a trend, the law of attraction and all this stuff. As first I learned about it reading books and studying religion, and then it became like a law of attraction film that
Right.
became pop culture, and now it's like everywhere where we talk about this. So point being is, I do think, though, while I can sound so cynical, I do believe that like the work we do does matter. Thoughts are contagious, energy is contagious, and like back in when I was like 19 years old or 22, 23, when like, how dare you not be a Democrat when you're not white, and like not knowing a single brown person or multiracial, whatever you want to call it, not white person. I wasn't a Democrat. And I hate to just make it about Democrats and Republicans, but it is significant relating to American history, civil rights legislative history,
Sure.
and more. Culture, ideology, crime rates. So anyway, look at that. Like years later, like that things have shifted, right? Then later on, there was a Candace Owens with the Brexit. It has been some shifting, and it is I just basically think, like, we don't work in vacuums, right? You can have a genius idea in your basement, and you're going to see it come alive somewhere if you don't like materialize it yourself somewhere. So that being said, take it for whatever meaning you can take from that sentiment. The work does matter as much as it doesn't, I guess. It might seem like it doesn't, but every individual has a lot of energy, more than we realize, and has an impact. And focus. I think our culture has in some ways shifted for the better than 20 years ago.
I agree with
which you've told me to reflect back upon.
Yeah, and I would say this, and we're coming to the end of our time, but I would say this, like, I one time had a target where I was on that target from a hotel every month for 3 years. And I got to know these people even though I couldn't hear them speaking. I had some, cheap cameras pointed at them that could run while they were charging. So I had 128 gigabyte mini discs, and I'd have it trained on every single one of them. And what happened along the way, and this is important about, collecting everything. Like, I love collecting intelligence, because what happens when you collect intelligence or collect surveillance, or collect everything, you become more aware of people's tics, and you actually become a better listener, and you interact better, because you get to know people even though you've never met them. But then the best thing that happens, especially in long-term surveillance, if you leave those cameras rolling, every now and then you catch a beautiful sunset with a deer silhouetted against it. And what happened at the tail end of my private investigator career is my reports started getting very artistic, because I developed a love for photography through investigations. And, so I think it really forces you to investigate your world. And when you do that, I think you'll find that, there's some bad things out there. There's a lot of good things too. So Alicia, I'm going to leave you with the last word. And we definitely need to have another conversation. Lots of questions for you, and hopefully you'll agree to come back. But I've really enjoyed this conversation. I want you to kind of leave the audience with some final thoughts. However you want to put that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I couldn't hear the last few words of your
Okay,
sentence.
so
But,
I'm gonna leave
some
you.
words of
I'm gonna leave you with the
inspiration.
last, not
Gee,
inspiration, just last
I could use
words.
a long
Hmm.
break from it all.
Hmm.
I think from 2020 or like 2019 till now, I just worked rigorously through this like feeling to save America. And right, it was like so intense with the election being stolen and COVID, and like COVID seemed like the end of the world and everybody's gonna die. There's gonna be like the dark winter, and all of our family members complied except you. And what are we gonna do? Everybody's got triple, double, triple vaxxed, and like I don't know if you wanted me to leave you with some inspirational words,
Not
Brian,
not
but
really inspirational, just really your parting thoughts. Like I would never put anyone on the spot and say inspire people, but just
okay.
just whatever you want to say. You could say the world sucks for all I care, but it's
Well,
your
certainly
time.
not.
So it's your time. So whatever you want to leave
Um,
the audience with.
Thank you all for tuning in today, and I look forward to doing more work. I'm grateful to have served in any capacity to help others over this time, and I look forward to consumer diligence, the work you guys are doing or will be doing, exposing the fraud that's surrounding us all. There is a matrix that wants to plug us in and body snatch us and sedate us with. I would love to expose Big Pharma, by the way. So
Yeah, wouldn't we
I've,
all?
I've said enough. Have a good night, everyone.
Well,
And thank you,
yeah,
Brian, again.
and I want to thank you too for coming on and sharing all this. We'll have a better connection next time and let it flow better. But in the meantime, I really respect your work. I've been there. I know the ability to focus the way you do on information you need to get for the to help people. And I think a lot of your work has helped a lot of people. I think when I was watching your work, not knowing who you were back then, my wife as well, she's like, who is that? Who is that person? She's awesome. And, it was nice to know that people were out there digging in the heart of the Marxist regulated pandemic. So sometimes when you look back on your
That's what
life...
it's about.
Yeah,
Fundamentally,
please, go ahead.
it's about helping others to the best that we
It really
can,
is.
however we can, when someone's in need. And I've had been presented with the option to help a lot of people, and the ability to do so as a journalist is remarkable. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, and you've done remarkable work. We think you're a warrior. We're so happy to have you here, and I'm glad you're still out there doing that work. So you definitely found your calling, and keep going, and take the breaks when you need to. Of course, we understand that, and but looking forward to great things, more great things from you. But I want you to know that your work has really helped a lot of people. This guy especially, and his own family, who showed your videos to a lot of people, saying, see, there's people out there, they're watchdogging, and they're going to get to the bottom of this. And then it inspired us to do even more. So I want you to know you've had a lot of impact.
Thank you. Grateful for the opportunity. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon, Brian.
It sounds good. Well, you have a great night. I'm going to finish out with the audience, and I'll talk to you soon, Alicia. And by the way, how do people find you?
I have a recently new Twitter account after my old Twitter account was permanently suspended, and that is,
Okay, what is it?
at Alicia Powe Show. So you can follow me on X at Alicia Powe Show.
Yep, and everyone, that is in the description. I put it in there. I'm glad it was the right one. Don't confuse her with the soccer player. There's an Alicia Powe out there that is a soccer player. So
My name
Alicia
used to
Powe.
come up first, and then My name used to come up first in the search engine, and then, you get kicked off as a right winger, a right wing extremist, and so it's hard to even see me in the Google search engine this semester.
Oh, by the way,
I'll make a comeback
if you got 1 minute, I was going through Wikipedia, and it's just like so sad. It's like that is a garbage site now. It's just like Gateway Pundits fake news, and they mentioned you in Wikipedia, and you know that
I was the only one wearing a mask in the White House not wearing a mask in the White House press briefing.
Oh yes. They said you were. I forgot what they said. They said you were dangerous, or how dare they invite you to the White House press ball or whatever it was because you're dangerous.
The only people with faces in that room were the president and myself. I'll be honored to put that under my bio somewhere.
And Alicia, let's just coming down to just two people talking here. I've got to ask you. You're from kind of similar background to me. Isn't it disappointing to hear words like dangerous and everything from adults? Like seriously?
Oh God.
Like when did people become so wimpy?
When the communists declared goals to take over America and infiltrate all of our institutions and did, and therefore there's such thing as wrongthink, and we're honestly communism and totalitarianism is creeping in America, and we have the social media companies enforcing these speech crimes, and we have the court system increasingly doing so, and it's actually, we have a little bit of a reprieve from the dark time we were in, but you were likely going to be put on a list if you worked at certain companies or speak a certain way. And so wimpy culture is dangerous, radical extremism. What is that?
Yeah. No, that's...
right-wing, radical
Yeah, no, that's good.
And I've dealt with it in my life in some way. That's, your speech is crime.
Those are words of wisdom.
If you're around the wrong people. And, a few decades ago, they lynched themselves some Republicans, right? It's not like it hasn't happened in the past.
Yeah, well, and those are good words. You got to stay strong to, basically stay free. I think we could probably agree on that for sure. I hope you heard that.
Well, sometimes it's not the hill to die on. Just shut up. Just shut up, go along to go long, right? Never. No. Never. Well,
Alicia,
I will talk with you soon, Ryan. Have a good night. God bless everyone.
God bless you too. You take care. All right, guys. And thanks, Alicia. I'll catch up with you after this. Everyone, that was Alicia Powe, and what a pleasure to have her on the show. And just if you have additional questions for Alicia, please send them to her over on X. It's Alicia Powe Show, Powe, show, all one word, and it's in the description. But it's really cool to talk to someone who's been in the field. It's a different thing to sit behind a computer and research things than actually going out in the field. And you don't realize until you get out there that there's a lot going on. You always forget things. A lot of times the reason we record things is because you forget half the conversations. You've got to think about security, what's around you. And to do that as effectively as she has with, kind of little training in comparison to someone like me, it's very impressive. But it should also tell you that it's something that is being employed against you, but also something you can learn to do. I'm not saying it's unattainable, but the key thing to the field work is getting in the field. And that's why there's so many distractions to keep you out of the field, because when you go out there, like Alicia has for years, that's when you really get to the truth of things. It's not the whole truth, but it's a big part of the truth. It's primary recollection. It really helps you really investigate, like I said, everything 360, because everything you do from your computer is just secondary. So, very, very cool. I'm sorry we had a delay. We'll definitely fix that in the future, but interesting conversation, very impressive. And, it'll be interesting to have more conversations with her, as time goes by. So before we go too far, let me just take your comments, because I know you guys have been more than patient. Okay, so we got Wild Rose, got Thomas, thank you for reposting the show. I appreciate that. Gentrification, that is the key word of those neighborhoods changing. Gentrification, absolutely. Cousin Ernie, we know someone in Lynn. We all know someone in Lynn. Lynn, the city of sin. You don't come out the way you went in. Eloy Galvin, and any of the Massachusetts people will know that one. Welcome. Hello to you too. Wild Rose, I think, does that say Lee Toast? I'm not sure. Interesting. I don't know what that means, though, but you can explain it. Hey, that's me, processor. Oh, no kidding. Okay, so Eloy Galvin, that's me, processor. Eloy Galvin, if you've got like some good footage and some good war stories about process serving, I think it is the most understated profession in the world, and one of the most important things that can happen in a court case is really good adherence to the laws of civil process. It'd be interesting, like process servers, they probably have the most dangerous job out there. Eloy, please get in contact with me. You could DM me, or you could just shoot me an email at brian@dailyclout.io. Want to hear your stories, might even have you on the show if you want to come on. It'd be great if you had some footage, but there's some process servers have the best stories. And they're in the most dangerous position. And you guys definitely, hopefully you're charging a lot, because what they go through is insane. My buddy Dave Barefoot, he's a process server in DC. That dude would get someone served no matter what. I've done some high level process serving. That's crazy. I would love to hear more about your process, no pun intended, for that. And I'm serious. So definitely reach out to me, brian@dailyclout.io. Put in the subject line process server if you're interested. Love to hear more about that. Just started that a few months ago, so it's really interesting. I hope you're being safe. I have a good book for you to read too. We'll definitely help. I've had crazy times at process serving. I've had billionaires, which was surprising, run away and knock over their own wives. Bill Browder. I've had people who I thought were going to shoot me in the head were the nicest people, saying, "Oh, I guess I got another subpoena." And it's like it's crazy. What an interesting job. So, and good luck, man. That's tough. That's about. I think it's even more action packed than Dog the Bounty Hunter, personally. So, do you still think? All right. So then Roscoe. I put everyone's comments up now. If you've got a ton of comments, I can't put them all up. I want to respect everyone's time. But do you still think it's worth it to vote Republican, Brian? I'm disillusioned with some of their agenda, and the way the Epstein file was handled makes me just feel like, well, I don't vote for the party. I vote for the person. Okay, I made that mistake by voting for Obama that way, but I'm not a party line voter. I don't normally discuss who I voted for. Obviously, I did vote for Trump this time because I'm not into Marxism and senile old men who take showers with their daughters like Biden. So I don't subscribe to the left-right thing. I don't subscribe to Republican Party is better than this party. Yes, I know they're the only choices, but I think no matter who you vote for, it's important to hold them to task. So, for instance, it's like if you hire someone to work on your house, you don't just hire them and then leave and trust them. You're checking on their work. And I think it's important, no matter who you vote for, to check on their work and hold them to account if they're doing something wrong or illegal. Doesn't matter, okay? There is no, it's better than communism. No, there's none of that. It's America. We have choices, and we fought for those choices. So even if, the Trump administration, you see someone's doing something wrong, you have to call it out, okay? Don't listen to the influencers, okay? A lot of good people that I used to like on like X and everything, obviously are paid influencers now. You can see they're all in lockstep on the messaging. it's okay. It's your duty as Americans to question your leadership, no matter who you voted for. It's totally, don't ever think I vote blindly Republican, because that's what Marxists do, is they vote blindly for their person. I never do that. And I hope none of you do either, because that's a bad way to, that's not being American. That's being kind of like groupthink communist, so do I think it's worth it to vote Republican? To answer your question, I think it's worth it to vote for the candidate you did as much due diligence on as you can. And if you're faced with the choice of getting hit with a car or a truck, because they're both really bad, then I would say get hit with the car. I mean, that's where I go. I hope that answers your question, Roscoe. And I appreciate all your involvement in this discussion tonight. Interesting stuff. Excellent conversation. Very interesting guest. Thank you, Wild Rose. I will pass that on to her. I'm sure she saw that one too. Laura Loomer is obvious foreign agent. This is Roscoe. It feels like Loomer runs Trump while he throws genuine MAGA like Marge. Well, Roscoe, we can talk about this more, but I don't know who works for who. I know that I think Laura Loomer's been very... I personally like Laura Loomer. I don't know Laura Loomer, but she's been very consistent. She's a dogged... she's got a dogged team of investigators. So, do I always agree with her? No. But a little secret about DC. To some degree, everyone's a foreign agent, depending on how you define agent. If agent is they take money from foreign businesses, I can't speak for Laura Loomer. I have no idea. But anyone, even when I was a private investigator, you get hired by someone, but that someone that hired you might have been hired by someone else. So you just never really know. As far as influencers go, what I would say is just collect everything on them, make a timeline, and see where the messaging shifts. And then compare that. And this is actually, what I would recommend for you, Roscoe. This, if you're going to say Laura Loomer is an obvious foreign agent, I don't agree or disagree with that. I don't really know. I, don't really look into Laura Loomer or any of these. But if you're going to say an obvious foreign agent, bring the receipts. Do the work. Show us why you think that. Because otherwise, it's just social media graffiti. It's just thoughts. Which are, you could say it's in my opinion, but if you're going to say something like that, and I say this for your own sake so you don't get sued, but also so you can really speak with some authority, bring the receipts. If that's your argument, make that argument and make it so it would stand up in any court, okay, as much as you can. Because that's how we get further. If we just keep saying this person's bad, this person's good, it's just going to be the same spiral. That's why I really try to push people to investigate everything, keep your receipts, get your sources, make an argument, try to get primary sources. Another influencer doesn't count as a source, it counts as a preponderance of evidence. So, bring your receipts. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. What I am saying is your opinion doesn't prove anything. And I'm really, I hope you're even like, I'm so mad at Brian for saying this. So mad that you bring your receipts. That's all I ask. Because when we start going that road of pointing fingers and saying, this person's this person's this, and you're not proving it, that's what the left does. That's what the Marxists do. They accuse without evidence. So if you're going to accuse, bring the evidence. Okay? You can accuse all you want. Everyone's welcome on the show, but it's an investigative show, so get in the mix, show us what you got, and we look forward to that. And Roscoe, I'm not calling you out, but I really want to see that. Like, if you've got some evidence, let's share it. All right, what is the conclusion of Luigi Mangione, so much as there is one? What is your conclusion of that? Well, I don't have a conclusion because I don't have a lot of new evidence. I have a theory based on the evidence I collected, so the evidence led to a theory. I do believe that my theory is, based on the evidence I collected, is for some reason people want this guy to go down for the murder of Brian Thompson. I'm pretty sure that the prosecutors in New York and at the federal level can't even put Luigi Mangione in New York at the time of the shootings. You could go back to my episodes on that back in December. I break that down also on my Substack. You can see where I break that down. The conclusion, look, I think this kid needs to keep fighting. I don't think he did this. The 911 call does not even describe who he is. It describes him after he was identified by a hostile worker on the night shift 10 days before. Go back to the 911 call. They say it's a guy in a cream-colored hoodie or light-colored hoodie with black leather gloves. That's the 911 call. Well, that's what Luigi Mangione looked like on December 8th when he was picked up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. But if you look on the video, the guy's not wearing gloves at all. He's clearly wearing a black hoodie, probably Gore-Tex. That's why I didn't show up light on the cameras. And we only see the back of him. So really, what do they got? They got a circumstantial case. I'm not a, fan of Luigi Mangione. I don't know who he is. What I do know is that the only one that's ever said he was a warrior for anti-United and anti-insurance is the people from the protest groups that tried to make him a martyr. He's never said that, and look through all this stuff that's available. He didn't write a manifest. You know why? Because it was labeled as a manifest by an Altoona police officer in the evidence log. It's only a manifest if, am I saying that the right way? Anyways, did I say manifest? So basically, it's, the way the evidence was labeled was incorrect. They should throw out all that evidence from the Altoona arrest. Manifesto. Thank you. I said manifest. That's so embarrassing. And so it was labeled a manifesto by the police in Altoona when they put it in his notebook, when they put it in the evidence log. It's only a manifesto if you, the writer, call it a manifesto and label it a manifesto, and you're a manifesto. As a police officer, he cannot log evidence as the police officer cannot log something as a manifesto. Okay? He can log it as a spiral notebook with a lot of writing in it. That's it. But it was logged as a manifesto. It's tainted evidence. I mean, everything about that arrest is bad. And just, go back and think about the biggest question I have is, we really don't have any footage from the day of the murder, do we? For all the footage they have, we really don't have it. We have nothing from the hostel. We have a guy walking with a bike battery that they said was him. Go back and look at my Substack. Well, a city bike, you can't remove the battery. And it was a city bike at first. So we got a killer out there. He's got his own bike. Or it's a guy with a battery that they just said is the killer. But if you want to know who I think is behind this, I'll tell you who I think is behind this. The people that had the most to lose if Brian Thompson remained alive. So if you go back to early 2024, think about what two individuals had the most to lose if Brian Thompson turned state's evidence on an insider trading case. And then I think you're going to come closer to where I think the answer lies. But I'm not trying to prove that. Still collecting evidence, but I'm watching a lot of powerful people, Pam Bondi included, who worked or works for Ballard Partners, whose biggest client was United Healthcare, suddenly doubling down on the death penalty. Because think about it. If someone hired this guy to take out Brian Thompson so they don't go to jail for an insider trading case, you would want the guy who was arrested, whether he's innocent or not, killed and executed for this. Because once someone's executed, case closed, no one's going to be looking for another killer. Okay, no one. So I'm going to leave it at that. I forgot how much I was into that case, but yes, I haven't dropped the case open file. It's just a lot of other things going on right now, so I haven't had a lot of time to really look into it. But we'll get there. We'll get there. And I think the biggest thing you got to ask yourself is, why hasn't there been a trial yet? What's going on? Are they hoping he gets killed in prison? What is happening here? I think they don't have a case. I just think they don't have a case. Go back and look at my stuff. You'll see what I mean. I think my stuff is probably the most accurate stuff out there, because I used to do murder investigations for defense counsel, so I go line by line through every single thing available. In this case, that's the federal complaint, the Altoona indictment, the New York County indictment. Go through it line by line. You'll see what I mean. Everything from how fast he got down there from the hostel, 6 minutes, doing 50 streets in Manhattan, even at that hour, that's impossible. I tracked it against Lance Armstrong's fastest time on a bike. Not happening. Those are the little things, but those little things all stack up. The process server, he could definitely tell you that as well. So, let me see. Interested in hearing about disengagement techniques. I'm good at getting engagement, but how to get out gracefully. God, I wish I saw this question earlier. That's a very important question. I can tell you mine. I usually go into engagements like that, undercover work, with, a time I have to leave by. Or the kids are at home, I got to be back by 11, something like that. Or I'll just go to the bathroom and set my phone alarm and pretend an emergency pops up. It's obvious, but it gets you out of there. But I always leave it open. When you leave it open, they're more willing to let you go. So when you say, and I had a great time, sorry I have to leave early, are you around on Wednesday? Good, I want to call you and see if you're available for something. That's my technique. So I don't do that kind of work, but when I did, it's like, even if it was like a business meeting, like, I'm not sure where we're going to go with this deal, but I like what I'm hearing. Looking forward to seeing the fine details. We've seen some broad strokes. But do me a favor. I'm going to leave you my personal email. And do you have any time on Wednesday? I got a couple more questions for you. Always leave that kind of like hope that there'll be a continued communication. Because if you did your job, they want you to listen to them more. That's mine. I'll ask Elisa about her techniques. That's a great question. All right. Wild Rose. LOA probably an emoji. Maybe. Wikipedia sucks. Yes. Yeah, it does suck. It's a total piece of trash. That's a dangerous question. LOL. David. You'll have to explain that. Head of Science. Okay, that's who that is. Got it. I've gone against Scientology guy one time. I set up a whole fake business meeting just to serve this guy a subpoena in DC, and I had to like get a live demo and everything because this guy was not coming out of his building. And the best part was I had my buddy Gary with me. He's from the UK. He's a US citizen now. And so we walk in and I go, "You're so-and-so." And he's like, "I am so-and-so." And he had his whole staff with him. They had the boardroom set up, slides, everything, because I really sold it well. I brought the British guy because people hear British accent. They think this is serious. And I said, "Well, that is great news because here's a federal subpoena, so-and-so, you've been served." And then we're walking out and the elevator opened perfectly. And as we're leaving, they're just in shock holding this thing. And Gary turns like, "All right then, cheers." It was hilarious, but we got him served. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Disengagement or Irish goodbye? Well, this is definitely an Irish goodbye. Cool, thanks. Yeah, no problem. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. My son has been more than patient with me. We do have a movie we're going to watch. So, here at home. So anyways, guys, great to see you again. It's been a long time. Ouch. Don't say. I don't know what the ouch is, Wild Rose, but hopefully I didn't offend you. Not my intent at all, but I do have to go. Anyways, yeah, really great. We're going to be seeing more great things from her. A real quick disclaimer. Consumer Diligence is in no way affiliated with Daily Clout or Naomi Wolf or my work here at Daily Clout. It's a totally separate entity. It is kind of funded by what I had in my savings account, and donations are coming in. I'm not soliciting them here, but do check it out. You could go to X, just look up Consumer Diligence, or just go to, actually I'll just put it up, that I can do. But yeah, check it out. And what we're doing is, so you guys understand, we're not going after any particular business. We get a lead and someone says, "This company ripped me off, this company seems shady." I don't care if it's a left company, right company, who their customer base is. I don't care if a trans hippopotamus from 15 countries and 18 pronouns says, "Hey, this company ripped me off." If they rip off an American consumer, they are going to get full due diligence. What is that? That means everything we find, good and bad, we reveal in the report. and there it is. And you could decide to transact with them or not. I thought that was so necessary because even Consumer Reports now is kind of like biased towards whoever buys advertisements. That's why we're not doing advertisements over there. But if you go to Substack, just go to, I can't put it on the screen here because I don't want any legal crossover. We will undoubtedly get sued by pissed off businesses. But just check out Consumer Diligence on Substack. On X, I believe it's consumer underscore DD or consumer DD, but you'll know it. I'm following it, so if you find it there, that's fine. Anyways, guys, I gotta go, and it's been a big pleasure, and thanks for meeting Alicia. I think she was wonderful, and I look forward to talking more about the next cases. So keep investigating everything, and by all means, record everything. And also, Alicia had it right, take a break. So, short one, but take a break. So, thanks. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.